Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Is everybody doing awesome this morning? Great. So today's presentation is going to be about the power of consistency on YouTube. On your pamphlet, it talks about it being a challenge, and believe me, it really is. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that, but there is a power to consistency on YouTube. If there's any secret to success in YouTube, social media, business, entrepreneurship, it's probably consistency overall. So let's go ahead and jump into it. For those of you who may not be familiar with me, my name is Roberto Blake. I'm a creative entrepreneur. I've been doing YouTube consistently for about 4 years now. July of 2013, I made a commitment to doing weekly videos on my YouTube channel. That actually helped me get to 10,000 subscribers within my first year from one summer to the next. But after that, I decided to do something really insane and experiment with trying to do as much content as possible, working my way up to daily. And what that means is I've done over 1,000 videos on YouTube alone, plus 1,000 live streams across all the other platforms, Facebook, Periscope, Instagram now, all these other live stream platforms to get more experienced with video. What I got out of 1,000 videos on YouTube, I didn't expect it to grow me to 250,000 subscribers. What I was looking for was to get consistent habits, to be a faster editor, to not hate my on-camera presence so much in the fact that I felt I had no energy, no charisma, deadpan voice like Ben Stein, things like that. I wanted to get better, and I knew that, doing this day in and day out every single day, I probably will get better at it, just like I did with cartoons and illustration when I was a kid. Just sitting there, and even if you don't like what you produce, it's just one more that's getting you infinitely closer to a level of quality that you're happy with. So consistency did a lot for me, and it gave me the opportunity to work with great brands. It helped me grow and expand my channel, grow my business through my channel. And so the power of consistency is something that's very real to me, and I think that it can benefit a lot of you. So one of the things I want to encourage you to do, is there anyone here who hasn't really gotten their YouTube channel up and running yet, or is waiting to start? Start right now. Maybe the best time to start a YouTube channel might have been 2010. You know what the second best time is? Today, right now. A lot of people have fears and concerns regarding YouTube as a platform. You hear it all the time. YouTube is dying. YouTube is saturated. Oh, they changed this. It's game over. YouTube party's over. Fun while it lasted. That's like a load of crap. It's so much glass half empty nonsense. The best time to do anything you want to do is to do it right now, right this moment. And if you do it consistently day in and day out, you will most likely see some benefit and some result from it. Even if it's not an external result, you will feel better about just being able to look back and see that you produced something, that you have a body of work, that maybe this was a step in your journey toward becoming the person that you want. So if you haven't started, after this talk, I encourage you to start now and don't stop until you're satisfied with who you are or what you've done. So areas where you can be consistent. This one is definitely important because consistency isn't just down to uploading every day or every week at a set time, at a set schedule, etc. Consistency is more than that. When you're talking about your brand, when you're talking about your channel, you have to have a consistent message, consistent style of content, because if not, you're not meeting people's expectations. If I came and I fell in love with this one thing and then you're doing something completely different, it's really hard for me to stay committed to you because of that inconsistency. Inconsistency is uncomfortable in life. We're creatures of habit. We came here for something, we expect that experience to be very similar. Familiar, good, unfamiliar, bad. Anybody ever use an Apple product? They are masters of consistency. They use a psychological tactic called the law of Pimpiquity is what I believe it's called. And basically it comes down to familiar good, unfamiliar bad. Try getting someone to switch from an Apple product to something else. I dare you. It's very difficult. And I'm a tech guy and I'm supposed to know better. And it's still hard to break away from the cult of Apple sometimes because they get you used to an experience, they get you used to a standard, and then it's just hard to leave that. It's the same for your YouTube viewers and subscribers. If you get them used to something, it's going to be very challenging to make a drastic pivot and not make people uncomfortable. So if you're going to start something, try to have an idea of what's sustainable for you, what won't get boring for you, what won't get boring for the audience, because making a drastic change later down the road, it may be necessary, but it's not going to come without some challenges, and it's not going to come without at least a little bit of discomfort. So areas where you can be consistent. Your visual aesthetic on camera. What does your lighting look like? What does your background look like? These things you would think, oh, I got to change it up all the time. Nope. To be honest, a lot of people find comfort in seeing that familiarity. You ever watch, a sitcom? Well, with the sitcoms, you often find that people have a similar wardrobe or style, they have a similar aesthetic, it's the same set pieces, it's the same backdrops over and over and over again. So that's actually really important. And something just occurred to me real quick. I forgot that this laptop is gonna need power, so excuse me for 1 second. One of the fun things about doing 1,000 videos on YouTube is I did it as a one-man band all by myself. 1,000 videos edited, shot, produced, and optimized for the algorithm all by myself, which means that I learned the power of having to be your own technician, your own editor, your own writer if something needed to be a little bit more researched or scripted. And that's difficult when it comes to consistency because you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself and you don't have other people to rely on. So what I would say is one of the other things that can help you be more consistent is if you set up a process for yourself and if you set up some kind of backup for yourself so that in the event that you're not feeling good, you're sick, or you're overwhelmed, or you're off schedule, that there's a way for you to still deliver. Because there's nothing like making a promise to your audience and saying, I'm gonna upload every Thursday, and then you miss one. It's like breaking that promise, that's hard on you. And the worst part beyond disappointing your audience is letting yourself down and realizing that, hey, because I missed one, is that okay with me? Am I gonna miss 2? Am I gonna miss 3? Because the thing about consistency is it sets you up for good habits. If you have good habits with regard to your production values, if you have good habits with regard to researching your videos, structuring them, putting in the extra work to do the titles, descriptions, tags, all the algorithm things, then those habits, that body of work that you're doing, you're gonna get faster, you're gonna get more comfortable with it, it's gonna become a standard that you never really wanna back down from. And so setting yourself up for consistency at the very beginning of your channel of saying, you know what, every week on this day, a video will come out, or every 2 to 3 days we're releasing this kind of content, or we're meeting our minimum of 3 uploads a week, because by the way, that's the new minimum for the algorithm unless your content is just that phenomenal and is performing well, or unless you started back in 2012. 3 uploads a week, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna try and help you figure out how to make that work. So the video making process, you've got pre-production, everything that happens before you hit record. You guys saw a little bit of my pre-production here as I was setting up for the presentation. In my case, that meant setting up my camera, setting up my microphones, all of those things. If I was at my home office, it would mean, in my case, flipping on my lights, because one of the things that made me more consistent on YouTube was just leaving my tripod and my camera and my lights always set up in my office so that for the sake of my habits, it would become as simple as taking less than 5 minutes to turn on a microphone, turn on my 2 lights, hit record, check my frame, and say, okay, we're good to go here. And that's it. And I could just start talking to the camera. Hey everybody, this is Roberto Blake from robertoblake.com helping you create something awesome today. See, that's my intro. It's a consistent intro, it's a ritual that my audience has gotten used to and that I've gotten used to doing at the beginning of my videos. It's consistent, it's familiar, it's just like the opening sequence to whatever your favorite television show is. You sit there and you know the words by heart, you know? If you're me and you love the 80s, then it's probably something like, making the way in the world today sure can take a lot. Does anyone remember that? Anyone old enough here to remember that? Wouldn't you like to get away? Okay, Netflix, yep, love that. So, you know, it's things like that. Production, that's when you've hit record and everything is happening. So consistency there is maintaining the energy that you usually bring to your on-camera presence and performance. It's going through whatever the structure or rituals are that you've accustomed in your content. Some people do scripted content. I typically don't. I just free flow, but the thing is I know what I'm gonna talk about and I know what my rhythm is now. But I didn't always know that, and it was a struggle when I first got started. That's why I did so many videos, because I realized, you know, doing this once a week, I'm not gonna get better faster, but the more I do it, the easier it'll get. And what I learned is for production, for me, my trick was I started, instead of filming 1 video at a time, I just kept resetting the camera and filming new videos back to back to back, realizing that you know, I'm doing these 5-minute videos and it's only taking me about 8 minutes to get through 5 minutes worth of content. What if I sat here for an hour? What if I sat here for 90 minutes, took a few water breaks, you know, and then just did a week's worth of content all in one shot? And it was one of the smartest things I think I ever did, because it saved me time, it saved me stress, and it also made sure there was some consistency between what I was making and what I was going to produce, because I was doing it all in one shot. So it meant I was maintaining the energy levels. I started recording and doing my production when I had the most energy in the day, instead of putting myself under pressure of, gee, I haven't recorded yet, the week's almost over, I got to put this video out no matter what my energy is, no matter how I'm feeling, because I made a promise, I made a commitment. I put myself in a position to win. I also put myself in a position to start to have a backlog of videos, so that on a day that I was sick, I'd have like something in reserve that I could release. And so that made sense in terms of production. As far as post-production, that's your editing. The thing that really sucks up the most time, right? Like, anyone here, like, how many, like, let me get a couple of people, like, how long are you guys spending on videos here at the front?
When I first started with like a daily vlog, that could take up to 3 hours. And then as I got better at speaking, then it was less, and smarter at filming, then it was less. And now I can do a sit down in half an hour.
So you went from
Not a daily vlog.
But not a daily vlog.
Punching all the clips together and getting your timing still takes, you know, 100 hours, and I don't know if I have that yet.
Well, what I would say about that is, I'll give you a hack for that. Yeah, I'll give you a hack for that, but it's like, but you went from even with your talking head videos for that taking forever to now that takes 30 minutes. And that's similar to what my process is now. It takes like maybe 15 to 30 minutes to edit that style of video, and that's the majority of my content. One of the tricks for your vlogs is, when you're filming, if you let the camera keep rolling and you give yourself your editing notes, or whoever might be editing for you, editing notes by keeping the camera rolling and then giving notes. This is something Jake Paul does, by the way. Like, one of Jake Paul's secrets for doing daily vlogs, he has an editor. He almost from the very beginning outsourced his editing, and like, he got his editor to his style. And the way that he did it was he started just talking into the camera right after he shot something and giving his editor notes right then and there in the moment while he's thinking of it, because he knows when he shot it, he knows what he wants it to be like. So you could even do that for yourself or whoever's helping you edit, and that would actually save you a ridiculous amount of time, because you don't have to remember now what you were thinking when you shot it. You actually know. So that's definitely one thing I would say. Also, in terms of prep work, one of the things I do is, if I'm doing something that's not talking head, I actually film a lot of my B-roll in advance, just in the fact that it's like, I don't need this right this second, but I might need this thing as B-roll one day. So I just keep shooting as much as possible, and then I label and organize everything so that when I need it, I know exactly what I have, right? And so what I would say is, definitely look at refining your process and getting your process down, especially when it comes to your editing. The other thing is, I give myself, just like I do bulk recording sessions, I do bulk editing sessions. So what I do is, I'll sit down and like, okay, I shot a bunch of videos. The next day, all right, I'm gonna set aside an hour or two and edit a bunch of videos. And so by doing that, instead of doing, oh, I have to think of a video, I have to shoot a video, I have to edit a video, I have to release a video, I do everything in bulk. I do everything in bulk. To get out 30 videos plus a month, you guys probably won't believe this, I only spend 30 to 40 hours an entire month on my YouTube channel to produce anywhere from 30 to 40 videos in a month. That's it. To shoot them, to edit them, to produce them, to do some of the, like, in my opinion, some of the better designed thumbnails of all time, to do all of that, I'm spending the equivalent of a full work week or less to do all of that, and to do it by myself. Once I start outsourcing more of my stuff, I'll probably be able to put out double the content at half of the investment of time. And that will let me be even more consistent. And if the consistency that I've had over the last 3 years has taught me anything, it's that that's where growth is gonna happen. It's gonna be a matter of talent times effort times time. That's gonna equal growth and success. So some pre-production basics, I talked about this. Set up your scene in advance. Have a corner of your room or your office or somewhere that's basically set up for filming all the time, so that it's easy to be consistent. You can't form a habit if it's difficult. it's going to be painful. If the more work you have to put into doing something, the more painful it's going to be. So why don't you just make things easy on yourself? Do everything possible. Think about everything that it takes for you to make a video and make that take half the time by just having it always set up and know what your process is. Write down a checklist. Write down a checklist of everything you have to do to make a video so that you already know what that is and you don't have to have anxiety about missing something, and just go through your checklist every single time. Do your audio checks. Check all of your equipment. Like how, earlier I didn't remember to plug it in. So, make sure you're doing that. Review notes if you have a script, so that make sure that you are doing that so that you're comfortable on camera. It'll mean you do less takes. I literally do everything more or less in one take, and if I make a mistake, I just run that one thing that I was going to say over again. Again, I don't use scripts, but I do sometimes use bullet points or an outline. So I just read that before, and then I mentally know, okay, that's going to keep me from rambling. Shoot your A-roll footage, but remember, shoot your B-roll footage in advance. If you know you're going to do a cooking video, there's a lot of things that before you sit down and you actually cook and do everything that you could shoot in advance. If you're doing a tech review, you could do all the product shots in advance. It's just simpler to do it that way, right? So just do all of the prep that you possibly can, and it's going to make all the difference in the world. Yes.
Sometimes I think I said stuff right when I go on my ramble, and then when I go to edit, I realize I didn't actually complete a sentence, or I said a totally different word. So if you're doing that and you're crunching down on the time, do you know, like, either fixes to get better at speaking on camera, or fixes for editing?
So there's a couple of things you can do. One of the things that I would say is, if you have any inkling that you messed up a line, consider, just for safety, doing that thing more than once. Also, if you are crunched for time and you know there's like a few words or something like that, or phrases, write all of them down, then go back or use the audio, on your desk if you have a microphone or something like that, and then record those lines, and then just try to dub it in, and then use B-roll footage over your speaking on camera so that they can't see the disconnect, and then it's just a voiceover. So that's actually a really good trick and hack for when you mess up with that. So like I said, I edited, produced, and shot and marketed over 1,000 videos by myself, and I don't recommend it. I do not recommend actually doing daily content all by yourself, but if you're going to do it, make sure you have an efficient process and make sure you're maximizing your time. Do not let time become your enemy. It's not the enemy. You just really have to get focused about how you're utilizing that time. Give yourself a time limit. You stop spending. I know everyone wants to think about the quality of their work. Me too. I'm neurotic as hell. I'm an introvert. I have anxiety. I beat myself about everything all the time when it's not perfect. And guess what I learned? Get over it. I learned to kill my ego. I walked it out to the backyard, replayed the scene from Old Yeller in my head, and pulled the trigger. So I would highly recommend that you take your ego out to the backyard, or even take it walking into the bathroom, hold it under the water, just wait patiently. It's okay, it'll be fine, and then you will be better off. Because if you get rid of that vanity and you realize that what you think is quality is not necessarily what your audience thinks is quality. They've already said yes to you. They've already made a commitment to you. There's going to be things that are forgiven very easily as long as you show up. As long as you show up, they will probably love you, warts and all. And if they don't, well, maybe you don't necessarily want them to be there if they're going to nitpick over every single little thing, as if you're not doing that yourself. So just consider that. And remember, time is your asset. I would recommend giving yourself a time limit. One of the best things I did to get faster was I told myself, you're allowed to sit here in Adobe Premiere Pro for 1 hour, and whatever you can get through in 1 hour, that's what you got. And what happened was I met that time constraint. It's just like if you talk to somebody on the phone and you say, hey, I've only got 10 minutes, I gotta run, I have an appointment. Anything they need to tell you, they will be able to convey to you in 10 minutes. But if you had let them, they would have taken 30 minutes to an hour just talking your head off. But if you give yourself or someone else a time constraint, that time constraint will get met. So time's not the enemy. I know everyone says, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough time. Allocate and allot yourself the time, give yourself a limit, and you will get better, you will get faster. Quality versus quantity. The biggest debate that I see among content creators is quality versus quantity. You need both. But I will tell you, as someone who grew up an illustrator, as someone who grew up a photographer, that quantity is the only thing that produces quality. If you've never done something, you have no business having the vanity and ego of expecting quality from yourself, because you have no experience in generating quality yet, because you have no executions under your belt. You have not put any hours in. There's probably no one here who showed up the first day of their job, the first day of work, and did everything right and impressed everybody. I really doubt it. And if you are, then congratulations on being special. Like, I mean, that's just the reality, right? So quality comes down to the experience you create, but also down to the experience that you yourself have. I am infinitely better 1,000 videos later than I was at my first 10, my first 100, my first 200, my first 300, my first 500. The experience matters. And by being consistent and compressing the amount of time that you've gained experience over, that's going to really help. There are people who say, oh, I've been doing something for 5 years, but it's like, have you really been doing it for 5 years? Or did you do it 20 times in the last 5 years? Because the odds are somebody who's done it 100 times in the last, oh, I don't know, quarter, 90 days, 100 days, probably might be a little better than you, even though you have 5 years. You have 20 things to show for those 5 years. And you say, well, it's quality over quantity. I beg to differ. Somebody who's done it 100 times probably has their process down. They might be more efficient. That might be quality too. Quality sometimes is showing up. Somebody's showing up more. Remember what we talked about with Apple, familiar good, unfamiliar bad. There are some people I'm sure you're looking at in your niche and you're like, how do they have the subscribers that they have? How do they have the community they have? My stuff is a better quality. My production values are better. My this is that. They were showing up every single day. They were showing up every single day. Just ask Steve Urkel, 20 years to, like, you know, seal the deal with Laura Winslow. 20 years. Steve Urkel showing up every single day. You know, there were guys with better posture, better dressed, everything going for them. Steve just kept showing up every day. Every day. So quality. There's objective quality, and I believe in that. You know, I've got all the tech, I've got all the things because I wanted to get faster, I wanted to get better quality, I wanted to stop having to worry about it. I invested in tech because, not just because I thought it'd be better quality, but because it would save me time. If I can get it right in camera, there's less stuff to edit. If I am not anxious about what the video is going to look like in terms of sharpness or quality or color detail, it means that if I'm not thinking about that, I'm thinking more about my performance on camera. If I have the flip screen, I'm not worried about does it look right in frame because I know. So an investment in my tech was an investment in not only my quality objectively, but also in my subjective quality in terms of I will be better on camera if I'm stressing out less. So I did that. Visual quality. How good does this video look? How good is the sharpness? How good is the color detail? Is everything in frame properly? Was the composition good? Was the lighting good? That's visual quality. Audio quality. If you're gonna worry about anything, worry about the audio. More than anything, I would say worry about the audio, because from an experience standpoint for a viewer, bad video, shaky camera, all of those things can be forgiven up to a point. Bad audio, nope, gone, see ya, bye. Editing. Editing quality is about style. It's about style, and it's about what you're trying to do to tell a story. So take that with a grain of salt. You don't necessarily need the greatest editing software of all time. I'm a big advocate of Adobe Premiere Pro and Final Cut Pro if you're never going to outsource and you're going to do it all by yourself, or you're never going to use the other Adobe apps. I like the suite. I use it for everything. But the thing I will say about this is, even with free software, when it comes to the basic minimal requirements of a YouTube video with regard to transitions and jump cuts and storytelling, it doesn't really matter what editor you're using as long as it's not taking up more of your time. I invested in better editing software because I just wanted to spend less time and I wanted to have no limits to my options. I wanted the highest ceiling possible so that as my skills get better, I could work my way into more advanced projects. When you're just starting out and you need to get your first 100 executions under your belt to start getting good at quality, go ahead and think about speed. because the speed and turnaround of seeing a result that's satisfying is going to keep you consistent, because it's like when you see something you made and like, hey, I did it, and you put it out there, there's no better feeling in the world. There's no better feeling in the world than getting something done, and that's where I fight perfectionism, is that done really is better than perfect, because there's nothing more satisfying than putting a check in the box. There really isn't. And if any of you have the least bit of OCD, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's nothing better than being able to cross something on the list, check something in the box. It feels fantastic. So, objective quality. Just make sure that the best something can be in terms of the technical aspect of it is, just make it the best you can be while maximizing efficiency of time. But don't overdo it, because then there's subjective quality, and you have no control over subjective quality. What you think is the best produced video in your entire inventory of videos will get 10% of the performance of the thing that you think is garbage that your audience loved for whatever reason. I really have personally experienced that. Videos that I think this should be one of my best videos of all time because I put so much effort into it. Nope. Oh, wow, I was a little lazy there, and it's like, wow, there are a few flaws here in the editing that I wish I could take back. It's like, oh wow, this 10x performed over everything else I did in the last 30 days. You have no idea what quality is to the viewer for the most part. They will make a decision for themselves about, was this interesting to them? Was this relevant and meaningful for them? Did they relate to it? And was it engaging? Did it connect with them on a deep emotional level? You have no control over how somebody feels beyond just doing your best to make sure that that feeling is a good feeling and that you've eliminated any distractions or anything that could take away from the experience. You know, a wonderful, amazing, like cheap date in the park where you're laughing and smiling all the time is going to be better than going to Disneyland, waiting in lines, you know, have the sun beating down on you and nothing going right, and then, you know, getting splashed on the wrong ride and not having a change of clothes. You went through all that trouble and all that money and all that extravagance when, you know what? A picnic basket in the park would have been infinitely better because you kept it simple and it was an enjoyable experience. So again, you could have all the flashy, fancy camera gear. I've seen creators go out and buy $5,000 worth of camera gear and make a video that fell emotionally flat that no one could relate to. It didn't matter how well it was produced. So at the end of the day, remember that subjective quality is what's going to matter to a viewer. The experience of how they feel emotionally about the content is going to infinitely matter more to them than all your fancy bells and whistles. I got about half the engagement on a video. I got about, what was it, almost 600 comments, 600 real comments from people on a video that was a rant that I did from my smartphone in Herald Square in New York that got 10,000 views, and that got more, it got about half the amount of comments that my best performing video that has almost 1 million views. It got almost half the comments and it only has 10,000 views versus a video that has almost 1 million views because people emotionally connected with it because the title of the video was Stop Overthinking It. And that really mattered to people. And because it was uncut, unedited, and raw, they didn't care that it was about 480p instead of HD or 4K. They didn't care that because it was the middle of New York City that the lighting was horrible and that was a live stream from my smartphone. They didn't care because they emotionally connected with that video and it mattered to them. Anything that you're doing, make sure that you're prioritizing making a connection with your audience more than you're thinking about how technically perfect it is. Prep work. Give your content some kind of consistent structure. Make sure that there's something there that's reliable, that's tried and true, that makes this clear that it's like they're in the right place. Make sure that you're keeping yourself concise and organized to save yourself time. Make sure that you're communicating clearly because you know what the beginning and middle and end of this video that you're on camera doing is really going to look like. Create a guide for your production, your editing. So again, you're not second guessing this. The worst thing is to open up Premiere Pro or Photoshop, sit there and stare at a blank canvas and go, what do I want to do again? Now what? Having a roadmap for your execution makes a lot more sense. It's why I like to sketch things first. It's like when I do my thumbnails or I do logos or I do anything, I kind of have an idea of what it's going to be like. I don't start from scratch. I hate starting from scratch unless I'm doing a tutorial because I need to know that if I'm going to give myself 20 minutes to do this, that I need to know what that's going to look like and what I can spend more time on. So again, do that. And also anything you can prepare in advance. If there's something that you're like, oh, I'll get to it later, but you know you're going to use this in the next 20 videos, just prepare it in advance. Do it one time, get it out of the way. Do as much prep work as possible. Make templates, make presets. If you know that, hey, you know what, because I'm always shooting in this part of my room or this part of my office, why not make yourself a color grading preset so that the color is exactly what you need it to be consistently, instead of doing that for every individual video? Why not do that? If you know that there's a way that you edit, make shortcuts, make custom shortcuts. Do all of those things so that you're just saving time. Keep it simple and you won't feel stupid. That is probably one of the most true things I can say, and that consistency is magic. When you have something that's consistent, that you've gotten right, and you find what that flow is, don't deviate without a good reason. One of the reasons that Casey Neistat and Jake Paul are some of the most prolific YouTubers right now is because they found the power of consistency. 4 years ago, most of you probably didn't know who Casey Neistat was. Were any of you watching Casey Neistat videos 4 years ago? Right, because 2 years ago he started doing a daily vlog with the power of all of his skills as a technician and a real filmmaker, and bringing the greatest quality to vlogging from a production standpoint that anyone had ever seen. And he changed the game, and he showed up and did it every day consistently. He did his unique thing at a consistent level day in and day out for 2 years, and it was the difference between him having 5,000 subscribers they worked for 5 years to build, to go in 2 years and add another 7 million on top of that. That doesn't just happen. It's the magic of consistency. Jake Paul. I was looking at what Jake Paul was doing over a year ago, because I actually saw him and met him for all of 10 seconds at VidCon last year, because I was a consultant for Disney. They were doing the premiere stuff for Bizarre Bark, the Disney show that him and his co-stars were doing. And so Maker and Disney were there. And I was looking at what he was doing in social media, and then I remember later that summer Gary Vaynerchuk was talking about it too, and I was telling my friend Malcolm, who's an actor, that you should really be looking at what this Jake Paul kid is doing in social media. I think something's going to happen there. 8 to 9 months ago, Jake Paul was doing an experiment with his thumbnails and with his style of his videos, and about 8 months ago he stumbled onto understanding what thumbnails and what titles would always get him a minimum of 2 million views. He did a lot of hits and misses. If you go back in the history of his YouTube account, you click on the videos tab on his channel, scrub back through the history, do it in order of oldest videos to newest videos, and you will see that 8 months ago, 9 months ago, he started experimenting and seeing, if I do this, I get 2 million views, but if I do this, I only get 250,000 views. And when he figured out the consistency of what he could do, he started doing that about 6 months ago, and as they like to say, the rest is history. So if you find something that you're doing very well, figure out how you can be consistent at it, and again, then simplify that process so you don't go overwhelmed and don't feel stupid. Analyze what you can do consistently that will perform for you time and time again, and that will work. Video production. Video production is where ideas get brought to life. The thing that I see people struggle with is, but Roberto, my daily vlogs take so long to produce. Roberto, my cooking videos take so long to produce. It's not like I can just turn on a camera and just start talking. I totally get that. What I would say is figure out these faster video editing tips and video production tips that I'm going to run through real quick before we run out of time. But what I would also say about that is consider the fact that there's other content you can do than the content you're currently doing. Consistency matters, but remember, it's a YouTube channel. When I go to the CW, I watch Flash and Arrow and iZombie and ... They're different shows. You can put different types of shows or content on your channel. They give you playlists, they give you the ability to make series. A lot of people underestimate that. So you can find something that's easy to be consistent at, and then something that's more challenging, that's a higher quote-unquote satisfying value to you, but then you can do a simple video that has the emotional connection with your audience, and it's a way for you to show up more often for them, but without putting a tremendous burden on yourself to do something that's unsustainable. So let's run through some very quick killer tips for faster video editing. Use the audio WAV files in whatever editor you're seeing in order to find your mistakes. When I mess up and I flub a word on camera, if I'm aware of it, you know what I do? First of all, I do a mouth exercise like so that I see it visually in the editor, and then I snap my fingers 3 times, because it gives spikes in the audio waveform, and I know, okay, instead of watching this video 5 times to find out where the mistakes are, I can scrub through it once, look through all the spikes, mark them, and then I can edit out all the bad stuff. And guess what? It cut my editing time down by less than half. Just doing that one thing. Prioritize automatic tasks. I know everyone says, oh, Final Cut Pro renders faster than Adobe Premiere. Why does it matter? Why are you sitting there babysitting a render for 15 minutes or 5 or 10 minutes? Go take a shower, go get some popcorn, go out, get out of the house, get some sun, do something else. But also, you can batch process those things. If you're me and you're sitting there editing 3 or 4 videos anyway, go ahead and set them all to render and then walk away for the next hour and go do something else. Go get some other work done. Go shoot some B-roll. Go shoot the photography for the thumbnail. Go into Photoshop and edit the thumbnail. Go do something else. Do research for the titles and descriptions and tags. Use that time more wisely than babysitting a render or anything, or even an import when you're loading up all that beautiful 4K footage. Why are you sitting there babysitting that? The computer's gonna do it. Go away. So that's the answer. Create presets and templates to help you speed up your workflow. Faster hardware can also help you speed up the editing process. One of the best investments I made was in building my desktop computer, not buying a Mac Pro, not buying a MacBook Pro. Sorry, Apple people. I decided that, you know what? Having an actual video card that's bigger than the actual whole thing that would fit in an Apple probably means that I get some better speed out of this. You know what? Having a dedicated hard drive just for exporting files, and it's an SSD, probably makes that process faster. So I did everything to take the bottlenecks away from my speed, and I couldn't be happier. Master your software and master the shortcuts of your software. If you're sitting there dragging and dropping and doing all these things, those seconds add up to minutes. Master shortcuts, one of the best things you can do for yourself. Create a process. I've talked about this time and time again. Create a process. Import and organize your footage. Nothing is worse and a bigger time stuck than looking for all of your footage and not knowing where's that one video, where's that one clip. Organize it. Get a process down. Go ahead and make all the assets you're going to need that are going to be consistent in your videos, make them in advance. Put them in there. Lower thirds, stop doing it, like make a process, make a thing where that becomes 2 clicks or a drag and drop or a copy and paste. Just make sure that you're doing everything you can. Make sure you're shooting B-roll in advance. You know what? You got a day where you're not producing or shooting or editing videos and you're thinking, gee, I'd love some new music for my videos or whatever. Spend a day, if you wanted to get music or you wanted to get stock footage or whatever, just spend a day downloading nothing but things that you have the option to use. That way you're not spending precious time right before a video has to get out hunting for something that will work. And go ahead and make notes for yourself of saying, I'll use this type of footage or this type of music in these situations, in these situations. Have a roadmap, have a real process for everything. Don't be overwhelmed. Again, focus on the value of your ideas. Focus on the emotional connection with your viewers. Focus on making your tasks simpler. Focus on what you can do to maximize all of your time. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed. I mean, I'm somebody who, again, I am very neurotic about everything. And people have no idea because after 1,000 videos, I got much more comfortable on camera. I got much more comfortable in my own skin. One of the things I owe to the consistency of YouTube is it just made me more consistent at being more of myself and being able to let go and relax and accept my mistakes. So I would say don't let yourself feel this tremendous pressure and be overwhelmed, because all it's going to do is hinder your consistency, because you will find excuses to not execute. You'll say, it's not good enough, I can't put it out. You don't know that. The audience will decide, and there will be people who love it and hate it. You could do your very best, and there will be someone who said, not good enough. As long as that person isn't you when you look in the mirror, who cares? So just make sure that you're finding a way to accept yourself and what you're doing and understand the value of it, and understand that even if one person gets something out of it, that's good enough. That's good enough. Whatever you think the flaws are, if one person enjoyed it, who are you to say that they were wrong? Who are you to say that that's not enough? So, that's definitely something I want you to take into consideration. Work with the right gear. Use gear that helps you speed up your process, speed up your time. Prioritize both objective and subjective quality. When it's necessary, find a way to outsource. And outsourcing may not mean giving up control of your editing like Jake Paul. You know, I still edit a lot of my stuff, but I'm planning to let it go. Casey Neistat still edits his stuff. But you know what? It could be something simple. Maybe it's getting a friend or a family member to shoot the thumbnail for you, because then you're just going to get something better, because it's not going to be you trying to do it yourself. And so that might be better, just to have someone objectively do that. Maybe you don't make the thumbnails yourself because maybe you're not the best designer or the best photographer. Maybe you don't do the optimization stuff because maybe you just can't figure out the YouTube algorithm. No matter how many videos you watch from me or Daryl or Tim, maybe that's just not your forte. Maybe you outsource that. Figure out what will make you the most efficient and what you are happiest spending your time on, and do that. Don't do the stuff that you don't like if you can avoid it. Again, do things that work for you, not things that make work for you. Make the process efficient. Keep it as simple as you can. Execution over ideas. You have these wonderful, tremendous, larger-than-life ideas. If you can't actually get it done and sustain it, it might not matter. And you don't know what's going to happen when you put it out there. So the best thing you can do is think about, what can I do today that represents me well, that will be emotionally satisfying for me to work on and to see a result from. Not obsessing over and agonizing over this big, larger-than-life vision that you keep struggling and feeling like you're failing to get out into the world, because there's nothing worse than that. So put the execution before the idea. Have the right priority. Say, you know what can I do right now? What can I do today? And what can I do that feels good, that feels right? And just get it done. As Nike would say, just do it. As I say, just go out there and create something awesome today. So that is my presentation on the power of consistency on YouTube, and you can find me in all the social media, and then we'll do a quick Q&A. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. All right, so I know we got to close up here, so I'm going to do some quick Q&A, and then if anyone still has questions, I'll either do stuff out in the hall or you know, try and swing by my booth later today and see if you can find me there. Yes?
So being on YouTube just changed the algorithm to having 3 videos a week as opposed to 1. Is that going to hinder my channel at all, or can I still stick to just 1 video a week?
There are ways around that from a content strategy standpoint. Remember how I said that there are things that, remember I've talked about the fact that there's help, hub, and hero content that you can do. You can have your main show, because I know with you, you're building a branded show. That can be your main content, and you can think of that as hero content, but you could do and release behind the scenes videos. So you could definitely do that. And since you're doing a produced, high polished show, there are things with your equipment and your camera gear and prep, and since also there's travel involved in what you do, that could be helpful. And then as a bolt-on to the series that you're making, since it's about people's different careers, the thing is, you could be doing beyond the polished and produced thing, you could be doing interviews with those same people that are an easier format because it's just an interview. It's a variation of a talking head video, and it still supports the other content that you did, and it might be more search friendly. So I would say that that's a way for you to get more quantity out of it without hindering what you feel might be quality videos. And so, but don't put pressure on yourself to do that right away. You have to get to a point of where you're getting good enough at a process to then go to volume. Because I had to do 1 video a week consistently to first get used to doing a schedule. And then after doing that enough, I was adding random videos throughout the week, and then I was able to say, you know what, I'm good enough to get out 3 videos a week now. I'm good enough to get 5 videos out a week now. I'm fast enough now to try for 7. And so it just goes on like that. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right, we got anybody else before we adjourn and go to the hall? All right, thank you so much.